Today's session is on technical skills in computer science. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Motasim Najeeb, who is a software technology executive for about 30 years or more experience in enterprise software industry, working for many different companies like Intel, Silicon Graphics, PeopleSoft, and Oracle. He was on the founding team of many different startups, including some which have become very, very famous over the years. So of WebMD, and he also served as the Chief Technology Officer for Sage. More recently, Motasim has been involved with several Silicon Valley startups, helping them scale the engineering organizations and also providing architectural solutions and direction. He was also a member of the advisory board for the computer science department at the Texas Tech University. He is currently on the advisory board of enterprise software startups. So, Motasim Bhai's, accomplishments are huge, many over the years, and this bio is just a very, very, brief indication of what he brings to the table. You guys should be lucky to be addressed by somebody with such vast experience. So with that, Motasim Bhai, it's over to you.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction, Asim. Let me just share my screen. And start the presentation. Okay, can you all share can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. So, good evening, everyone. Like Asim said, my name is Motasim Najeeb, and in today's session, I will be talking about developing skills in computer science that, when you acquire them, will give you a competitive edge in finding a job after you graduate. So, a quick slide. Please follow these rules so that we have a smooth session. So the agenda for today's session is as follows. I will take around 30 minutes or so giving this pitch. Following that, we will have breakout sessions on 3 topics that we had shared in the invitation with all of you. This should take roughly 15 minutes. And then we'll converge back and report on the breakout sessions. I would love to get your questions anytime during the presentation. Just go ahead and type your question in the chat box. And I'll try and answer them at the end of the breakout sessions and read out if time permits. If not, we will answer your questions offline and share them with you. So that we'll come into. So there's a lot to cover, and I may gloss over some of these slides, but that does not imply that the information on those slides is less important. And to make up for that, we will share curated articles and other resources on these skills that you can familiarize yourself and put them in practice. All right, so let's start by defining what makes a great software developer, really from a hiring manager's perspective. And what they look for is 2 categories of skills that fall into buckets. One is soft skills, and the other is obviously technical skills. You have observed the emphasis placed on soft skills in the previous 2 technical sessions, and I will hone in on the ones that matter the most in your journey as a software developer. Software development is a team sport, and you will not advance very far in your career if you do not develop these essential soft skills. As you can see at the bottom of the slide, the quote from Robert Glass is both
Sorry to
accurate.
interrupt you, sir. The slides are
Yeah.
not getting changed. I think so. We are on still slide one.
Yes. Yeah.
I see
I
slide
was
one.
just about to point out. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Now we can see.
Now we can see, sir.
okay, all right. I don't know what happened. So just let me know if that happens. So getting back, the quote from Robert Glass is both accurate and revealing.
I can only
Motasim
see.
bhai, it is difficult to see.
Yeah.
Okay, now things are okay. So I
Yeah.
think, yeah,
How is it now?
it is much better now. So I guess I can see it. But why don't you just go up and down and let's see whether you're scrolling properly or not before you
Is it
begin.
happening?
No, it is not changing from
Okay, let me restart the presentation
yes.
and maybe that will fix it. So
This is a PDF or
no, this is Google Slides actually.
can you make it into a PDF and then present from there?
You could just select file and then download as PDF, and then it would be fairly
Oh, it will
smooth.
be faster, right? Okay.
Yes.
Well, let's give it this a shot. I have
Sure.
some presenter notes that will not show up in the PDF. I don't. How is it now?
Yeah, it is fine. It's fine.
It is fine,
Perfect.
sir.
Okay, all right. So it just needed a restart. Sorry about that. Let me go back to the slide I was on. Okay, so what Robert Glass's quote says is that there is a wide disparity between the skills of good developers and the not so good. And if you look at startups in Silicon Valley, they are constantly on the hunt of what they call 10x developers. Someone who is 10 times more productive than an average developer. And there is fierce competition for such talent, as it is hard to find. And also because they can make a difference between the success and failure of a startup. So the message to you all is that you need to constantly upskill yourself to stay relevant and progress in your career. And the goal should be to rank in the high end of the spectrum. Okay. So let's talk about some of the software skills that are really key in terms of your career development. You know, the reason why this mentorship program places so much emphasis on improving your soft skills is precisely because of that. We have dedicated entire sessions on many of these core skills. So I'm not going to expound on all of them in this presentation. Please make sure, we already had Dr. Nazneen talk about a growth mindset. We had one excellent presentation on communication skills. And then, we will follow up with time management and so forth. Now, employers are placing a high emphasis on determining whether a candidate will be a cultural fit or not. And it is not unusual to reject a candidate with strong technical skills if they are evaluated as being culturally unfit. And demonstrating cultural fit is all about articulating your soft skills. So that's how important it is. Sorry about that. I'll share a personal experience with you all. I had the displeasure of firing a 10x engineer actually on 2 occasions. And the reason for that was their sustained disruptive behavior and disrespect towards the junior members of the team. And the 10x factor gets negated when such individuals bring down the morale and productivity of the entire team. In the industry, these type of personalities are called prima donnas, and really they are not very welcome in today's working environment. A quick word on conflict resolution and emotional intelligence. And these are two interrelated soft skills. Conflicts among team members is commonplace. Developers have very strong opinions, and they are not shy of expressing them. And there are many ways to diffuse these situations. One, you need to learn to listen actively. Sometimes you have to postpone the discussion if the situation warrants. Always assume positive intent unless proven otherwise. And most important of all, never take any of these heated discussions personally. It's always all about business. So with that, I want to tell you, make sure you attend all of the upcoming software skills session that are remaining. Okay, so let's dive into the technical skills and look at what are the ones that will really make you shine. The universe of technical skills is very, very large. And as an entry-level developer, you're not really expected to have the depth and breadth of knowledge on a wide spectrum of skills. So what I have listed here are skills that expand on what you learn in your curriculum and hopefully will be relevant regardless of the career and company that you choose when you are out in the job market. So let's take a quick tour of these skills. Obviously, the most obvious one here that you need to develop is programming language and frameworks. And one question that keeps coming up to the mentors from all of you is which programming language should I learn? And so let's take a look at the most popular languages in 2021. Right? So there is no better source of truth than GitHub in quantifying the most popular languages in use. Not surprisingly, JavaScript is right on top and has steadily maintained its popularity. It's easy to learn. It is the lingua franca for web development. And there are tons of rich frameworks supporting it. And JavaScript can actually be used both for front-end and server-side scripting. So that is certainly right up there. Next, you will see Python getting steady traction. And there is a spike in popularity since 2018. This growth indicates and coincides with the popularity of Python among data scientists. At one of the companies I work called Castlight Health, we had to develop an elaborate infrastructure to clean and curate very large healthcare-related messy data sets. And this entire subsystem was built using Python and the Django framework associated with it. Moving on, Java has held steady for a long period and has recently seen a decline in popularity, most probably because of Python and the expense of Python's rise in popularity. A couple of quick observations here. Objective-C, which has been developed by Apple, has seen a dramatic rise in popularity because it is the language of choice for developing applications on the iOS and macOS platforms. And lastly, Ruby has seen a dramatic decline from its peak as a language of choice for startups, primarily because it does not scale well and invariably requires a rewrite once a startup has gained traction and hits an inflection point. And any rewrite is a very expensive proposition for any company. Okay, so what does this all mean? There is no one good answer that applies to everyone. So if you aspire to be a data scientist, the obvious choice is Python, which is also a good general purpose programming language. If you want to be a backend or a full stack engineer, then most likely Java will be a good bet. Aspiring front-end engineers will default to mastering JavaScript. And say if you want to work in the Microsoft ecosystem, then C# is the way to go. But once you've made a choice, focus on learning that language and strive to master it. Understand the concepts of language design and what differentiates them. The reason that there are so many languages is that they are purpose-built for specific domains and optimized for certain programming styles. And so once you make that decision, learning another language will really not be that difficult. I have listed a few areas of emphasis, and writing clean code is way up on the top. The idea here is that well-written code has an indefinite shelf life. And unlike other products that you use in daily life, wear and tear will set in, and eventually these products need to be replaced. But good software can literally live on forever. You may be surprised to learn that most business-critical applications still in use today by banks, stock exchanges, hospitals, airline reservation systems were written in COBOL and still run on old mainframe IBM. This is a testament to the longevity of well-written software applications. The other point here is that when you join a company, you will have to understand code that was written by someone else. And by the same token, code you write will be maintained by someone else down the road. So it is extremely hard and frustrating to understand someone else's code if it is not well written. So there are several books written. The most famous of them is called actually Clean Code, that I strongly recommend you get a hold of and read, because this is a very valued skill by all companies. Make IDEs, integrated development environments, and debuggers your friends. These are incredibly productive tools and indispensable for software development. Why don't you all take a moment and write down your favorite IDE and or a debugger in the chat box. So it gives everyone, a sense of the most popular IDEs and debuggers that are in use. So do that while I continue with the presentation. Explore the other more advanced concepts in the list on your own. This is what is going to solidify your knowledge of programming languages. All right, a quick introduction to frameworks. Broadly speaking, they are a collection of libraries and associated conventions that perform common tasks to accelerate your application development. And there are tons and tons of frameworks available. We mentioned one popular one called Django, specific for Python. JavaScript has a whole host to choose from, and so do other languages. And new frameworks keep popping up at a steady pace. What I would advise you is not to spend a whole lot of time mastering a particular framework, because this knowledge has a short expiry date. It is more useful to get a deeper understanding of how frameworks are used in general, and you can easily adopt whatever framework is in use at your workplace. Moving on. All right, so data structures and algorithms. You do not need any intro to this topic. A sound knowledge of this is table stakes for acing your technical interview. So why is there so much emphasis on this in entry-level job interviews? And there are a few reasons for this. One, it is foundational knowledge for software development. Two, they assess your problem-solving skills. And three, really, there is not much else that interviews can measure in terms of technical competence for new college hires. So they typically zoom in on this particular topic. So make sure that you spend a lot of time, just practice. There's sites for practicing data structures, HackerRank, Geek for Geeks. There's a whole ton of them, Code Chefs, and this is where you are going to hone in these skills. The reality is that it's unlikely that you will implement a binary search or a doubly linked list in your work experience, because these are all already built in or available through libraries. What is really more important is the knowledge of how to use the right data structures and specific algorithms for solving a particular problem. All right. Okay, so let's talk about software architecture and design patterns. This is typically not taught much at the university level, but the moment you join a company, you're going to get exposed to this. And I have given a couple of definitions here, and you'll see there are dozens of definitions for software architecture. And then actually they have evolved as this craft has evolved. And what I have done here is I'm using the simplest possible definitions of these terms. And in there, you see a term non-functional requirements, and this refers to not the actual business functionality that is implemented in applications, but things like extensibility and maintainability of your programs, performance, responsiveness, scalability, reliability, security. All of these are very, very important non-functional requirements that one needs to be very cognizant of when you're developing enterprise level applications. So why are these important? Let's take a look. If you are, let's say you're building a hut or a jhopri, as they call it, then you don't need to worry about architecture. But if you are building a skyscraper, then it becomes imperative to apply architectural principles. And the same applies for software systems. Complex systems that over time end up in millions of lines of code and become very difficult to comprehend and maintain. Companies end up wasting tons of money trying to refactor and sometimes completely rewriting such systems. And oftentimes the irony is that they are unsuccessful. So there is a huge emphasis on getting the architecture right from day one when you go in and work for startups. Because retrofitting architecture over existing lines of code is really, really hard to do. Okay, so I'll give a sort of a brief overview of the most prevalent of software architecture and design patterns. Don't worry about if this is all new terminology for you. We will follow up with reference material that will give you more insight into those different types of architecture and design patterns. So the first one, the n-tiered architecture, where the value of n is typically 3, is the most prevalent architecture based on the principle of separation of concerns. So tier 1 is your presentation layer, typically the browser or a mobile client. Tier 2 is typically the business logic, where the meat of the application resides. And tier 3 is typically your persistent store or the database server. And for the longest time, this architecture dominated right after we passed the client server phase, and we started seeing more and more web-based applications. Next, service-oriented architecture, or SOA, is an evolution of the n-tiered architecture, where business functions are defined as services that are called by clients using what is called a ESB, or an enterprise service bus, through well-defined interfaces like REST, and well-known communication protocols that you're familiar like HTTP. And the commonly used term web services implies a service-oriented architecture. And till recently, say in the last 5 years, and actually it still is the most dominant architecture in use today. Sometimes it's referred to as a monolithic architecture, and that's not a negative term, as we'll see when we talk about the merits and how you choose a particular architecture. So the next one, microservices, is actually a specialization of a service-oriented architecture, where, as the name implies, the granularity of the services is much smaller, each implementing a discrete business function. It emphasizes flexible, independently deployable services that can be implemented in different languages and actually even have their own database or persistent store. So it's quite conceivable that one team may develop, let's say, an order entry microservices in Java, having its own database, let's say MySQL, and another team on the same application can build a recommendation microservice using, let's say, Node.js, and have MongoDB as a persistent data store. So you can see how much flexibility the microservices or MSA architecture provides for large development teams. The question you may have is, which is the best architectural approach? And like everything in software, the answer is, it depends. There are technical and business trade-offs that need to be considered before deciding what will work best. Netflix was, as a point of reference, was one of the very early companies to adopt the microservices architecture. And they have done enormous amount of innovation in this field that has been open sourced and used by many companies now. And really most consumer-oriented businesses are evolving towards a MSA or microservices architecture. So that's a quick overview of some of the common architecture approaches to designing large systems. Now let's take a look at some common couple of design patterns. BFF, also, not to be confused with best friends forever, is really backend for front end. The concept of, this is a concept of developing niche backends for, let's say, each user experience. One for mobile front ends, another for, let's say, a desktop front end, and maybe yet another for voice and IVR, or interactive voice response. And each employs different APIs to service the different types of front ends. And this is very, very common when you have multi-channel user interfaces for applications. And then this basically is a design pattern that is often used for those type of applications. Quick overview on circuit breakup patterns. And these are basically, this pattern basically prevents an application from repeatedly trying to execute an operation that's likely to fail, let's say due to network latency or excessive load on a particular service. And what this does is, rather than having the user wait, it improves the user experience and by responding gracefully and to imminent service failure. So this is another example of design pattern. And the ones I've listed here are representative design patterns, and there are scores of these specific to particular programming languages and architectures. Excuse me. The point here is to be aware of what design patterns are and apply them as good design practices in specific domains. All right, so next, let's talk a little bit about databases and SQL. You should all be familiar with what these are. Relational databases have been the linchpin for business applications for decades now. And they continue to dominate despite innovations triggered by the advent of big data. The architecture of relational databases is founded on what is called the asset properties: atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. Don't worry too much about what these mean right now. These properties ensure that integrity of database transactions are maintained. So a quick example, when you go to let's say a bank teller and withdraw some money, and while you are in that process, let's say the electricity goes off. Now, what you don't want is your bank account being updated to show the deduction, but you actually didn't get the money because it didn't complete. So database servers actually ensure the transactional integrity of your transaction. So in this particular example, the transaction will either get rolled back as if nothing happened, or when the power comes back, hopefully shortly, it gets completed and then you'll get your money through the teller. So that's the strength of relational databases and what has been known as online transaction processing. Relational databases work great for structured, record-oriented data, but they can be restrictive and do not scale as well for storing and retrieving large volumes of heterogeneous data like audio, video, and text. And so this has led to the development of what is called NoSQL databases. And this is an umbrella term for non-relational databases. And they come in different flavors that I have listed for you there with examples. And all of these are optimized for different problem domains. A common characteristic of NoSQL databases is that most of them do not comply with the asset properties, or at least all of the 4 asset properties. They don't require schemas. They scale easily. They are highly distributable and perform very, very well on large data sets. So when you think of sites like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, almost none of them use relational databases. And then they have actually invented most of the commonly used NoSQL databases. So while it is good to have a conceptual knowledge of NoSQL databases, I wouldn't, you should not focus on learning any one of these out there. Just focus on relational databases and SQL. And perhaps if you are inquisitive, maybe MongoDB, if you really aspire to be a backend developer. All right, so next, DevOps. DevOps is increasingly becoming a critical component of R&D organization, and many developers are actually training themselves to become DevOps engineers. This discipline has emerged from the desire of businesses to reduce the development cycles, innovate faster, and increase the reliability of the services. Another reason is deployment of production services for businesses in cloud infrastructure platforms such as AWS has also contributed to the urgency of forming DevOps team. And so you can take a look at the activities. It's actually a collaboration between the development team and the operation teams. And there is a seamless process called pipelines, all the way from when a developer, checks in the code, runs the unit tests, and then, uses the CI continuous integration and CD continuous deployment automation tools to move through the process very, very quickly till you get it to production and be able to monitor these services for integrity and uptime and so forth. So while it is difficult to get hands-on DevOps experience on your own as a student, I will still recommend taking a DevOps course to understand really what this entails, because I can assure you, you are going to be exposed to some of these tools once you, get your first job. All right, cloud computing services. So not long ago, most companies managed their own data center services with hosting companies like Rackspace, as an example. And this required a high investment in CapEx, as it's called, capital expenditure, in buying hardware, memory, CPUs, as well as deploying specialized skills like DBAs, sysadmins, network administrators. And companies have to plan this expenditure for the worst case scenario. So as an example, online retail sites experience the most business during the holiday season, and then the utilization tapers off. But companies who manage their own data centers have to prepare for the worst case scenario. So you end up with resources that are not fully utilized for the non-seasonal time. And AWS has pretty much changed all that. And majority of the businesses now use cloud computing services because of what is known as the elasticity that is inherent in these platforms. So as an example, Netflix uses AWS for nearly all of its computing and storage needs, including database, analytics, recommendation engines, video transporting, you name it, and hundreds of functions that total in use more than 100,000 server instances, all on AWS. So this is the kind of scale that AWS can handle and offer to the businesses. So pretty much no business starting up runs their own data centers anymore. It just doesn't make fiscal and financial sense. Now I picked AWS as an example because it is the most prevalent platform, but Google and Microsoft also offer cloud computing services. And the best analogy for cloud computing services is how you subscribe to your own phone and electric services, water services. That is, you only pay for what you consume. And that is really the concept of AWS and Google and Microsoft cloud services. All right, so I will strongly recommend that you get familiar with the key AWS services. I've listed some of those on the slide. And AWS also provides free access to some of these services to students, as well as courses and training on these services. So I'll send you a link and information on how to access and get your hand dirty on AWS. All right, so last but not the least, let's conclude the session by talking about Agile. And strictly speaking, Agile is not a technical skill, but it is no less important. Developing in Agile mode will also put your soft skills to test. You need to communicate clearly in the progress, for example, that you're making in the daily stand-up meetings. Your time management and prioritization skills will be crucial to consistently meet the aggressive deadlines. Typically the sprints, as they are called, are bi-weekly. So by definition, a sprint, you have to deliver working code at the end of each sprint. And that's a pretty rapid pace. So unless you hone in these priorities, you will find yourself falling behind, which is not great, because in Agile, you cannot hide. You are providing the progress you're making on a daily basis. So Scrum is, there are many flavors of Agile, and Scrum is the most practiced form of Agile in companies. And then there are other concepts followed by Kanban, and there's some companies who use extreme programming. But they all follow the same concepts. And there are some pretty critical, important roles in a Scrum team, which is typically small. Anything between 6 to 8 people is optimum. Anything larger will make the team dysfunctional. So you have typically a Scrum Master, and sometimes the development manager will double as a Scrum Master. You have a very important role of a product owner. This is product management folks who define what needs to be built. And then you have the dev team, front-end engineers, back-end engineers, full-stack engineers, QA. There's usually a design person and typically a DevOps person. So this is a very typical composition of a Scrum team in most companies. All right, I think we are a little over time, but that kind of concludes the presentation. And let's tie it all together before we go to the breakout rooms. So developing soft skills is critically important for a successful career as a software engineer. So this theme you'll hear over and over again. And it takes time to develop these skills, and there's no better time than start right now in understanding what the key skills are and how you enhance them. Like we said, the universe of technical skills is large. Focus on what will matter most for your next stop in your professional journey. When you do projects, don't simply write code. Apply and get hands-on experience with a lot of skills that we talked about today. Learn debugging, master interactive development environment, our IDEs. Get experience with GitHub. It's pretty easy to do because you're going to use it. I would love it if you develop a project, go and write a couple of microservices and get a hands-on experience on what it really means. Once you understand the concepts, it's not really very hard. And use some of the agile methodology, right? Don't just go jump into code. Write stories, epics before you implementing them. This is all going to give you experience of what you're going to see in your first job. And if you apply all you have learned today faithfully and diligently over the course of your engineering degree, next year or two, I guarantee that you will gain a competitive advantage in securing a job in the most sought after companies. Okay, so now for the fun part, let's go to the breakout sessions, and hopefully Nazneen and Khalil have set up these breakout sessions.
Yeah, they're all set up. I can quickly tell you that Owais is in 1, Roshan is in 2, Junaid is in 7, Farah is in 3, Moeed, you're in 4, Asim is in 5, and Asra, you're in 6. They're all assigned. And each breakout is about anywhere from 10 to 12.
And I remember I have to give Junaid, I have to make him a co-host as well, right?
Yes, you do, but he's assigned to group 7. So go ahead and make him a co-host.
Dr. Kasi, can you also assign Taj to my group, please?
Oh, absolutely.
Assign Taj to you? Okay, I can do that. To Dr. Ansari, was that you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. It'll take me a second, but he'll be there.
Okay.
You want me to start the breakouts?
Yes, please, Nazneen. Thanks.
Dr. Razi Mubin here. Which group do I join?
You're in a random group. Does it matter?
No,
I don't
no, it
know.
doesn't matter at all. Anywhere is fine. I just didn't know where to go.
Yeah, so you are in a random group, and I'm going to open up rooms right now. So everyone's going to be in your rooms, okay? Najeeb, if you click onto the, if you click on the breakout, it'll ask you which room you want to join, and you can join any room you'd like to.
Yeah, one second. I don't know what happened to the Zoom menu. I don't see it.
Go to the bottom of the screen, and you'll see a little a four square it says breakout. So click on that.
Yeah, one second. I'm just trying to find that. I think I'm in a full screen mode. That's what is happening here. You are not in any room, looks like now.
I'm going into one. I'm not going until I get you in a room. So
Yeah, so I can't find that for whatever reason. Maybe I
okay,
need
so
to stop.
you see at the bottom where it has a breakout room, a little like the mic.
I'm actually missing that entire Zoom menu.
Oh, you need to get out of the presentation screen.
Okay, there we go. It's showing up now. So you're saying I need to.
So click on a room, just click on room 1 and it'll say join. If you click on one room right next to it, it'll allow you.
Okay, got it. Breakout rooms, one. Okay, got it.
Whichever you want to join, you can join now.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Okay, bye. I'm going to join one of the rooms. So you're all set?
Okay. Yeah, I'm set.
Okay. Okay, bye.
Bye. All right. Looks like we are all back now.
Yeah.
Yes, we should be all back now.
All right. You want to moderate the readouts, Dr. Razi?
Sure. So we can start with group 1, and that's Oasis group. Oasis, you want to lead the discussion and then have someone report out?
Sure, Dr. Razi, thank you. So yes, we had a discussion on all the 3 topics and had some comments that the students have provided. So our group is being represented by Sufyan. So could you unmute yourself and just provide a 1 to 2 minute summary of what we discussed? Thank you.
Okay, so Assalamu alaikum everyone, all the mentors, hope you are doing well, and also the mentees, and I hope I'm audible to everyone.
Yes, you are. Walaikum salam.
Okay, so yeah, we basically focused on the 3 questions that were posed, the 3 most important technical skills, why learning mindset is important for software industry, and important skills for software development. So to coming for the first question, as Oves sir has said that databases is one of the most important technical skills that one has to learn for, apart from the coding thing. And other teammates have added a few awesome points such as graphical presentation of ideas, such as flowcharts or etc. or communication, either being vocal, like being perfectly vocal on what your idea is to the clients or whoever you're addressing to, and also showing creativity in what you're actually expressing and being open-minded, having proper work ethics such as being respectful to peers, etc., and logical reasoning, problem solving in general. So these were the things that were told by our teammates for the question of the most important things that were apart from technical. They are technical skills, but at the same time, they are not, apart from the coding one. Now coming to question 2. So why learning mindset is important for software industry? So based on this, we had a last session. So what sort of things can you make a habit of for improving your learning mindset? One of them was online courses. So as we can see, due to the pandemic, lots of courses have become online, and mashallah, we can see lots of content on YouTube and many places like Coursera, which were for free for students like us. And it was a great opportunity, I can say. And the next most important thing which I love is hackathons. Yes, I would love to participate for hackathons, not just to win the hackathon, but it's also that we see others, our seniors doing awesome projects like innovations in science, which we don't find in normal scenario. So hackathons was one of the first hackathon which I had actually gave me a different perspective of computer science. I had no idea what a database was, but when I have been to my first hackathon, yes, it was an awesome experience. So I would say that hackathons is the best place. Next, coming to contributing to open source. Yes, contributing to open source, we see the results that how open source projects like Flutter and etc. are booming these days, and answering queries in great discussion forums, participating in technical discussion forums, etc. can also help out. And also the best thing which we can't miss is coding challenges and competitions. So these were the things that were discussed under the question of improving learning mindset. And coming to the question 3, important soft skills for software developers like us. Yes, the first most thing, it's obvious that it's confidence. Without confidence, you can't achieve anything. Next, coming to proper gestures, that is proper body language, and then patience. Yes, what can I say about patience? I would just like to quote something from Quran, that in Allah mas sabirin. So yeah, apart from that, I think that's what sums up why patience is required. Then coming to healthy relations, positive attitude, and self-motivation, and handling work pressure. So yeah, these were the things that we have discussed, and Oves sir has ended us with a thing that utilize this mentorship opportunity as much as possible, interact with your mentors, and he also ended the discussion by wishing us a good luck for future endeavors. That's all I can summarize.
Thank you, Sophia. That was excellent. A really well-rounded discussion right there. So I love the ideas. I encourage everyone to read and take advantage of the courses that she mentioned. You know, this is the time you can actually take extracurricular courses as well. So I'm going to move quickly to group 2. If you can summarize your session. This is Roshan's session. Roshan, you want to kick it off?
Thank you, Dr. Razi. Yes, we were able to discuss all the 3 questions, but briefly on the third question, we were able to touch upon the third one. I'll let Danish from group 2 to speak on what we discussed.
Hi, everyone.
Yes, Danish.
So, yeah, so we could cover up all the 3 questions. So what the first question was, the most 3 important skills other than the knowledge of the programming. So like as we discussed, first of all, it will be the knowledge of databases. You should have a knowledge of databases which is other than the programming language. The second one will be the soft skills that we should have. We should have great soft skills, so that because in an organization we should know how to speak, how to present yourself, and the second the third thing will be how to listen. We should know how to listen to others also, not only making your point or your idea is better than the other. You should know how to listen to others also, because that is the most important thing that I feel should be, or should people inculcate in themselves, that listening to others is very very important for us also and for them also, because the juniors are also in an organization and you are the senior, and you're not listening to them. That would be like demotivation for them. So according to me, that is the most important. And other than that, cognitive thinking will be most important when you are in an organization or a software industry. Other than the programming language, you should have a cognitive thinking. Along with that, we should have critical thinking also. Then the second question was, why is learning mindset particularly critical for a career in a software industry? So yes, learning mindset, as we discussed in our earlier sessions also, is very important for our own growth. And that includes staying updated, because we live in a ever-changing world with new technologies coming up very often. So we should know like how to, what technologies are there, and being updated and going with them. And as discussed earlier also, patience is the key. So you need to stay focused. Don't panic, or if the code is not running or there is some problems, have patience, it will solve. And no need to worry. And positive thinking is very important. Being a test driven mind, you need to have a test driven mind, because being a test driven guy, it is very important, because you should know what is success, how to measure it, and before you should know what is development. And being a learning mindset, having a learning mindset helps you do that. Third question was that what are the soft skills to be a successful software developer? So as discussed in the session, there were very good points that were put up, like the emotional intelligence. That is the most important point. That is the ability to understand what are your emotions really, what is in your mind, and putting them and managing them, and putting them in a positive way. Then the cognitive thinking that I spoke up earlier. Confidence, that is the most important thing in any organization. When you are speaking to anyone, you should have confidence. Don't feel low. Whatever point you have, you should put up. It will be like what will be worse, it will be wrong. No, don't need to worry about what will be wrong or correct, because I feel that like in this world, we don't try because we are afraid of failure. And we should not be afraid of failures. So the worst thing will happen, it will be rejected, your idea will be rejected. That's the thinking we should not have. We should try and try until we get success, and understand our own emotions, and implement them in a positive way, and always have a positive thinking. That's we discussed. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Danish. I know we're running up against time. Should we keep going? Najeeb?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so indulge us if you have a few more minutes, if you can just be a little brief. These were really great points: listening, empathy, emotional intelligence, critical thinking. All of these are great. Let's move to the next group, and that is.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, Danish. That was very good. Let's go to Farah's group. Farah, you want to kick it off?
Sure. Hi. So our group got around to two topics only. The first one, what are the technical skills that are needed other than programming languages? And the second one was why do we have to keep learning? Why is the learning mindset, important? So the notes were made by Dania, and she will be presenting it to the group now. Dania?
Yes, thank you. We spoke about
Dania, are you
only
there?
2 topics. Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Dani.
Okay. So we spoke over 2 topics. The first one was what are the 3 most important technical skills other than knowledge of a programming language. Over here, everybody was quick to mention that SQL and databases is very much important to manage data, and having a good background in these is very essential, because these form the basis of what we essentially work with in programming. And aside from that, our mentor was very keen on mentioning how testing and debugging and behavior-driven development was also important, and using good IDEs is also important to see what's going on, and and to where to step in within the code, and it also helps in faster development and to be a lot more efficient. She mentioned how it was not used to be the facility of good IDEs was not before, and how it is now, and how it is entirely helpful to really get in hand with these. And also about one of our participants mentioned that using APIs for making development process easier is also important, to know how to use the APIs, and that they fall into the framework. And then we talked about how agile is important within a work environment, since when you will be working, you're going to be working within a team. So you have the same code repository which branches out, and many people come and work on it simultaneously, and all of this has to come together into one product. So to make sure all of that works together is also important. And one more thing that comes under agile methodology is to have the ability to translate a user story and turn it into code. Usually programmers do not need to, software engineers do not need to write a user story, but they should be able to translate it into their code, which is also essential for them to know. And then we also mentioned about testing that is done. And one main thing was to write clean and organized code within the skill, which is essential to be able to work within a team, and for everybody else to understand what you have written within a code and to be able to alter or edit it. Then we have the second question, which was why is a learning mindset particularly critical for a career within a software industry? In this, we discussed how there are so many opportunities being created again and again, and to be stuck within the particular skill you have won't be right. To keep growing is we can move forward and climb the ladder of different opportunities and branch out from where we are. And since the industry itself is ever growing and ever evolving, we must do alongside with it, and to develop positive habits. And one of the examples from today's presentation, which our mentor gave us, was how the pace at which the industry evolves within the architecture. First, we began with monolithic, and then we have the micro architecture, and we also learned about how they communicate with each other, which is something which comes under the involvement which happened. Also mentioned about how DevOps was no such thing a few years ago, and now DevOps is so essential within the programming environment, and also about how there was no testing and continuous testing and deployment within code, and now that it is essential, which is also some skill which you need to learn, and how staying relevant in this technological world would be right, or else younger applicants, younger people would come in and take up your place. So it is essential for the survival within this. And I personally wanted to mention one more example, which was about how React Native was something which was back in 2015, which is also pretty recent. But now there is a new such thing called Flutter, and it came around 2018. So within just a couple of 2-3 years, new involvements are happening, and better opportunities are coming along. So it is very essential to survive in this technological world. That's what we discussed. Thank you.
Thanks, Danya. That was pretty comprehensive, those two questions. I really liked your responses to both of them. I thought you had a good discussion. I agree, the evolution of data sciences and everything you're doing is evolving so fast. So creating a learning mindset is important. Let's go to group 4, and that is Moeed's group. Moeed, you want to introduce the team?
Absolutely. Thanks, Dr. Razi. I think in group 4, we had a very engaging discussion. We even went beyond these 3 questions and started asking a few practical questions within the group. I'll invite one of our participants, Bashir, to kind of represent the group and share the kind of summary of the discussion. Bashir, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Hi, everyone.
Hello, Bashir. Go ahead.
First of all, I am very happy that we were able to discuss all of the 3 questions, and that too in detail. So coming to the first question, what are the most important technical skills other than the knowledge of a programming language? Well, we discussed about databases, APIs, and much more. We also talked about the front-end technologies like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I personally, I have made some websites, so I have some good knowledge about these things. And the one of the important things we discussed was the learning how to apply the knowledge of a programming skills in different scenarios. We also saw Motasim sir's presentation, the graph about the trending programming languages, JavaScript, Python, and Java. Coming to the second question, why is the learning mindset particularly critical for a career in software industry? So today's world, technology is constantly growing. We need to be able to adapt to these technologies. So one of the points made by the group member Malik was, the bottom line is you have to have a strong foundation if you want to cope up with the evolving technologies. Whatever you are learning, be it Python, Java, or any other programming languages, you need to have a strong foundation in that language. You need to cover all the basics, and then even if the technology is evolving, you will find no difficulty to adapt to it. And coming to the third question, what are the most important soft skills to be a successful software developer? Well, we discussed this in detail as well. So firstly, a person needs to know how to approach a given problem, how to structure a problem and divide it into parts. Basically, this is the step where all persons find it difficult to do. If you divide the work in smaller parts, it becomes easy to then merge it up to form a big piece. The other thing important was the teamwork. Working in a team makes a person know how he should be, what areas he needs to focus on, interact with peers, and increase its fluency. We discussed about the products and many other things like how to communicate with clients effectively and increase the user experience, critical thinking, and how to develop leadership qualities as well. Finally, we also got to know about Mohit sir's profession, his experiences, and that was a great talk with him. So we are running out of time, so I just made my speech a little bit short. Other than that, we discussed a lot of things. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Bashir. You can see there's a lot of commonality, when you talk about knowledge other than you can see across the board, everyone talks about databases, SQL, API, Python. These are really important. But I think what he said, what you all need to focus on is there has to be a real strong foundation. And Najeeb said the same thing. Pick a particular topic of interest to you and go deep. And then you should also have some of the softer skills that everyone's talking about. We're going to move on to the next one. We have 3 more groups. Dr. Ansari, do you want to go next? Or?
Yeah, so I mean, very quickly then, we had a very interesting discussion in the group, and Ramesh has agreed to summarize just because of some brain freeze. Our first discussion was on programming languages rather than apart from programming languages. So this adds a little bit of interesting variation in this whole thing. And the second thing that we focused on was in soft skills, we focus mostly on communication. So I think Ramesh is going to summarize this stuff.
Okay, Ramesh, go take it away. It's all yours.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Firstly, Mr. Asim asked us a question that which programming language do we use? So, all of the participants said they use C, C++, Java, but among all of them, Python was the most popular and preferred language. Although the language use of language depends on the use case where we are using that language, but I myself prefer Python over any other language if it can be compatible with the use case. We also discussed topics like web development, React. Somebody said she was doing web development, and we have frameworks like React in web development. After that, Aman, who is from electronics and communication engineering, said that she has no restriction in learning and in doing anything because she doesn't have to follow the curriculum of the semester. She can do whatever she likes or learn whatever she likes. That was very insightful. After that, we discussed the next question, soft skills. So to improve the soft skills, all the participants shared very insightful things that they do. We can read out loud what we are reading. This helps us open up. And somebody said she pretend to talk to people, like acting to talk to people. It's also very insightful. And the one thing which I found, one point which I found most interesting was muting a video and reading out the subtitles. Like when you are watching a YouTube video, you turn on the closed captions and mute the video and read out the caption, those subtitles. And we should always try to come out of our comfort zone and challenge ourselves and do things which we feared earlier. We should always keep trying, doing new things. We also discussed some knowledge like The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, and reading books is also important. Is also helps in communication skills. Thanks you. That's all. I am very awkward now.
Thanks, Ramesh. Okay, yeah, we did get a little different flavor here about languages. And then, of course, all of the things that he talked about, reading is important, getting out of your comfort zone. Those are all important skills to develop. Let's move to group 5. Group 6. Asra, you're up.
Yeah, in our team also, we got time to discuss all the 3 topics. I'd like to invite Sandeep, who would represent our group. Sandeep, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning to everyone. Good evening to everyone, sorry. The first question we discussed was the 3 most important technical skills apart from programming. So the first is designing. So learning to make simpler user interface will help your product more accessible to people. People will tend to use your product because of simpler UI. So designing is one. Then project management, it is the need of an hour. It is the most effective way of achieving a project goal through a systematic approach. For example, agile project management is being used nowadays. The third one we discussed was database management. So nowadays we work on a ton of data which is being generated every day, and learning database management will help us in real world environment. Also, I would like to add that my point that PowerPoint presentations are also very crucial. They help in expressing ideas effectively. The next question we addressed was why learning mindset was necessary. So the first point was staying relevant. Nobody wants to look like a prehistoric relic in this industry, or rather in any industry. So it is not easy, but at the same time, it is important to grow as an individual in any field. So reading about the current developments happening in the technical field is very important. That's the second is research work. So research works, actually a lot of research works are being published nowadays, and learning mindset will help us in discovering new opportunities. So I think research work is important. Then decision making skill, real world environment need you to make optimal decisions quickly, and it will come from confidence. So growing confidence is my next point, that growing confidence, learning mindset is necessary for growing confidence. It will help us basically interact and be confident of our work. The next question we discussed was, what is the most important soft skill? So the first point was effective communication, which includes listening and speaking, body language, and also being crisp to the point will help us to get our ideas, to formulate our ideas and express them in words. So speaking skills are important. The listening skills are equally important. Being able to listen and understand what the other person is trying to convey through his ideas is also very important. The second point is teamwork. Teamwork helps. Teamwork will help us in producing. It will bring out the best out of us. Different ideas are being thrown. Different ideas will bring different results. Conflicts will happen, and conflict resolution will also happen. So it will improve us as humans in every aspect. So I think teamwork is a very important soft skill. Then time discipline, time management. Time management also will, in this competitive real world, will make us carry out our priorities and complete our projects before deadline. So, and this will come with discipline. So discipline is my next point, which is also very important. It's not a soft skill as in, but discipline will help us in achieving time management. So that's it. That's about it. Thank you.
Excellent. That was really, really good. Again, you can see a lot of recurring themes. I loved your comment about staying relevant and not getting stuck in the prehistoric times. I think that is really true, especially in this field. I loved your soft skills. It sounds like you've done some really good work in having that discussion around teamwork, time management. All of these are really critical. We're down to the last group, and that is Junaid. Junaid, you want to introduce your speaker?
Yeah. You're able to hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
First of all, I really apologize because what happened was I had appointed Mobishi to take the notes, but now he has reported in the chat that he is facing some audio communication issues, so he couldn't take it. Now, this is also learning for us that how important communication is. Like if I would have been communicated, I could have had appointed, someone else. So, but still, I would like to request from my team, especially Vyas, Noreen, you were talking, and Ahmed, that would you like to take it up? Even if you are able to speak one point also, I know it will be very difficult to speak out when you are unprepared. But now see, this is the real time scenario, right? So if you can, either of you can speak out even one point also. Actually, most of the points we touched was from 1 and 2, with slight indicative of 3, because I saw many students got carried away in point 1 only. But so I would request like Vyas or Ahmed or Noreen, if anyone can speak even on one point, I think that will be very highly appreciable, given the situation. You're unprepared. Yeah.
I am Ahmed. Can I speak?
Yes, sure, Ahmed. Thank you. Highly appreciated, Ahmed. Thank you.
We discussed in starting, we started with other than programming languages, what are the skills required? So we started with soft skills. Sir told that soft skills are most important. If you don't have technical skills also, sometimes soft skills help you to get in good company, then you can get technical skills working there. And I personally recommend to develop soft skills by one of the method is we should teach our juniors or our brothers or sisters in the houses. So teaching is one of the most important way to get soft skills and to develop soft skills. And one of my teacher is Durga sir. He is running Durga Soft Institute in Amirpet. So he recommends us to teach the subject. What he says is listening the session, you get the subject just up to 30%. When you practice the subject, then you get the subject up to 40 to 50%. While discussing it with your colleagues and friends, you get the subject up to 60 to 70%. But when you teach the subject to others, he says we'll get the subject from 70 to 95%, he says. So that is how we can develop our subject. Learning programming language, even I learned programming languages. But when we teach the programming language to others, there is massive and very, very great experience. And we, while learning the subject, we don't get that concepts. But when we teach it to others, we feel like, oh, this was the use of this line or this method. Even we don't realize it while practicing. So that's how teaching is important to develop our skills. Even we can get patience and we can get the idea that how to make the subject and how to make our thoughts understandable to others. So in this way, teaching is very important. Another thing we discussed was cloud computing. The told services that cloud computing gives us are very less of cost, and we don't have to manage it. The third party vendors and the other are managing that. And lastly, we discuss about in brief about DevOps. So DevOps is a set of practices that works to automate and integrate the process between software development and IT teams. Sir also told in till last decade what used to happen, that testers used to test the tool and they was not able to test the tool as per the client's requirement. But after that, after some time, user acceptance testing began, in which testers used to test the tool and they were sending it back and they were giving it to client. When clients were not satisfied, they were giving it back to the developers. So in this way, the process was going on. But when DevOps came into the market, then in DevOps tools have come out to view the process. If errors were there, then directly mail was sent. If no errors, then built-in phase was there, and it went on in the process, and the tools were developed in this way. So this was the brief. What we
Hello.
Thank
Hello.
you. Thank you.
Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, we're going to
Hello.
end. Yeah, does someone have a question?
Yes, my name is yes, ma'am. My name is Mohammed Bas, and I also want to add some more things. I'm related to 7th group, so mostly we are not cover lots of things like which is given, but we can discuss in the group like technical skills which is needed to learn for a programmer or software developers. That is important, which is like some skills like cloud computing and data structure. So we are going to talk about data structure. So it is a very important skill which provide the way how to solve the problems which some other languages there is a grammars. So data structure is work as a grammar for learn any programming language, and they can explain how to connect to each other, different processors and programs. So data structure is one of the skills, and database is also, and cloud computing. If we discuss a lot of time in which that is on-demand service availability of computer systems and resource. And in this we can handle any service like systems and storage or other services which we can access remotely. So that is some other things which we can learn in technical skills. So my point is
Okay.
that.
Thanks, Wes. Thanks for adding. Again, I'm going to turn it over to Najeeb. You want to summarize quickly and close it out?
Yeah, so these were excellent readouts. You guys have such a wide kind of spectrum of views that went beyond the 3 questions discussion points we had. I would have loved to do a Q&A session, but it's getting pretty late for everyone. And I do want to thank all of the mentors who moderated these sessions. And a special thanks to Dr. Razi for setting it all up. And perhaps I'll hand it over to Basharat to close the session.
Thanks, Najeeb, for a wonderful session. And then, every last session, every session, the mentees are very keen about languages and learning languages. So I'm sure they had a good overview of the languages which they have to learn. And thanks your mentees, thanks all mentors for being with us, and hope to see you soon. Thanks.